Good evening, everyone. We're holding an Iggeres HaTeshuvah. We are middle of Perek Gimel on page 184. Towards the bottom of the page by the new paragraph from Makol Mokem. So earlier in this Perek, the Alter Rebbe, continuing on the theme which he started in Perek Beis. In Perek Beis, the Alter Rebbe explains how Teshuvah is one thing, but Teshuvah, although it fixes any blemish that was caused by the Avera, and forgiveness is granted by Hashem. But nevertheless, if a person wants to be chaviv umerutza lafanav yisbarach yikodim achat, if a person wants to regain Hashem's graces as he or she was before the Avera, want to restore the relationship mamish to a pristine status, so for that, in times of the Beis HaMikdash, you'd have to bring a carbon. And because today we can't bring a carbon, so instead of a carbon today we have instead fasting. So fasting, again, is not part of Teshuvah, but it complements Teshuvah. After Teshuvah, it polishes you and shines you, so you're as polished and shiny as you were before you did the Avera. In this Perek, in Perek Gimel, Alter Rebbe continues on that and says, okay, so how many fasts does a person have to fast? So the truth is there are different Sayin the Sifrei Musar and Sayin the Sifrei Kabbalah. There's a prescribed amount of fasts for every single Avera. And the question becomes, if a person repeated the same Avera multiple times, how many times does that person have to fast? You have to fast that prescribed amount of time times the amount of Avera that you did. So if you did Avera 10 times, you have to do 10 times the prescribed amount, which obviously can be quite difficult because the prescriptions aren't for 2 fasts or 3 fasts. They're 60 fasts, 80 fasts, 100 fasts. They're pretty heavy. So the Alter Rebbe brings down 2 opinions. One opinion is that you have to take a fast for every single time you did the Avera, you have to fast the prescribed amount of fasts. Another opinion that no, you have to do only once. You have to do the prescribed amount only once for every Avera that you committed, no matter how many times you did that Avera once. Doing the prescribed amount once is enough. And the Alter Rebbe then says, and the accepted hachra, the accepted compromise, is to do it 3 times. So if you did Avera many times, no matter how many times you did it, fast 3 times the prescribed amount of fasts for that particular Avera. Then the Alter Rebbe continues and says that was all in the earlier generations when people were physically stronger. They had more robust constitutions, and they were able to fast, and it didn't impact them. It didn't impact them that much. It didn't impact their health. It didn't impact their strength. But today, the Alter Rebbe says, in our generations, so we have, in our generations, we're not as strong as we used to be, and therefore today, if it's going to impact our Avodas Hashem, so today we don't fast. So the question becomes, we can't bring a carbon. We don't fast the amount of fasts. So how are we supposed to be goymer the kapara? How are we supposed to spiritually polish and shine our neshamas after Avera? So Alter Rebbe says, brings down the pasuk from Daniel, the chatach b'tzedakah perek, that for this we have tzedakah. Tzedakah is in the place of fasting, which is in the place of a carbon. That's what we're holding right now, and now let's do inside. Page 184 again, 3 lines from the bottom where it says, Umekal Makim. Nevertheless, call Baal Nefesh Hachafetz Kirvas Hashem. Someone who is a holy person, a spiritual person, a soulful person, who deeply desires to be close to Hashem, l'sake nafshe, and to remedy his neshama, lahashiva al Hashem, to return it to Hashem, b'teshuvah me'ula min hamuvchar, with a teshuvah, the best possible teshuvah. So for that, and this person doesn't want to do substitutes, doesn't want to do tzedakah. So yachmer al atzmi, such a person could and should be machmer on himself. Lahashlim al kalponim pam achas kol yimei chayav, throughout his lifetime, to complete at least once mispar hatzoymes l'chol avin va'avin ma'avonos hachamurim, for the prescribed amount of fasts for every single Avera of the Avonos Chamurim, which means the more stringent Averas, Shachayav and Aleya Misa Akapanim, Averas for which there is a capital punishment, misa through bezdin, va'afilu b'dei shemayim, or even an avera that also is a capital offense, but it's only kares or misa b'dei shemayim, bilvad, kegoin, for example, lohitzoi zer levatala, pei dalat soimis, for example, for the avera of hitzah zer levatala. So to do that at least one time in his life, paid dalat seimis, which as Dr. Rebbe we mentioned already last week, that for the iser of zera levatala, the prescribed amount of fasts is 84. So to do that at least pam achas, at least one time, be mechayav throughout his life. So for those of you who have been following along in the program in the last few weeks, you realize it's a little of a roller coaster. Yes, no, no, yes, no, yes, fast, no fast. First, Alter Rebbe says it's not part of tshuva, and then he says, but it could be part of tshuva. Even though it's not part of tshuva, but it's a good thing to do after tshuva in order to polish the neshama. And then the beginning of the parak, Alter Rebbe says, but don't fast because we're too weak. And now the Alter Rebbe is saying, yes, don't fast because we're too weak, but if you want to purify your neshama. So again, not for all averos. If you remember, we learned in Perik Beis. There's for Stam Yenam, and there's Tefillah, and for Kas. We're not talking about all Averis, but for Averis that a person transgressed, which are severe Averis, capital offenses, Misas Bezdin, or Misa B'dei Shamayim, for those a person should try to fast throughout his lifetime at least once the prescribed amount of times. You could push off these fasts to the short days in the winter. Then you'd fast ke'eser tainiyis al derech mashal b'chayrev echad epachas, and fast every winter. You fast 10 fasts or less. In other words, it's very obvious and clear that the Rebbe wants to be very certain that you're not taxing your health and you're not taxing your body and you're not overly straining yourself. Not to fast too often. Over a winter time, they're short days, so the day ends at 5 o'clock. At least that's the way it is here in New York. And even though here it's the summer, but there are other places, and maybe people are joining us from the southern hemisphere, where there it's the winter right now. Akapanim. So we push off the fast days to the short days, and even then, 10 times over a winter. So if a winter is a few months long, right? So we're talking about 3 times a month, episazay. So Dr. Rebbe says that, it seems Dr. Rebbe is implying that's something which even in our generations is something that the body can bear. It's not an undue tax on the body, and it won't interfere with our Avodas Hashem. Then the Yigmar Mispar HaPei Dalet Soimis, if you do that, you'd finish the 84 fasts. Betes Shanim O Yeser, it'll take you 9 years approximately, maybe a little more. Kefi Koiche, according to your strength. V'gam Yochel Lechel Ma'at Kegimel Shoyis Lefnei Netzachama. You can also eat a little. You can wake up early and have your coffee and cake 3 hours before Netzachama, which is sunrise. V'afal Pikein Nechshav Latainis, and nevertheless, this is considered a fast. If you before you went to sleep, if you made a tanai, you already in your mind you decided you're waking up early 3 hours before Netzachama and you're eating, then that will be fine. Okay, I just want to point out that this little paragraph, this little parentheses over here, is a subject of a great amount of discussion. What does the Alter Rebbe mean? Why 3 hours before Netzachama? I'm not going to get into it, but it's a whole long pilpul with many different opinions on this. It seems the Alter Rebbe is following an opinion in the Yerushalmi, where it says that you're supposed to fast from Kreis HaGever, which is when the rooster first crows, and the question then becomes, why is the Alter Rebbe following that Yerushalmi? So there's much ink has been spilled on this. It's not really relevant to the larger conversation about Teshuvah. Then another question that has been raised is, does this apply to all fasts? Because B'derech Klal, we know people wake up before Aleisa Shachar, and they eat. They don't. The fast doesn't. We don't usually consider a fast as starting 3 hours before Netzachama. Or so is Dr. Rebbe talking specifically about these types of fasts, which are called Tanya Shel Tshuva, or is it all fasts? Again, large discussions on this, not necessarily leading to any resolutions. Just want to make you aware that there are these discussions. Moving on. Well, a tashlum reish nun beis tzoymes kenal. Now you still have to. There's still. The Alter Rebbe said earlier you have to do 84 fasts times 3. That was the Achra Mekubelos. 84 times 3 is 252. So for the rest of the 252, in other words, 84 fasts, Alter Rebbe is recommending that a person actually fasts. And for the other remaining, so that would be 84 times 2, which is 100, the remaining 168 fasts, Yis'ana oid dalet pa'amim pei dalet. Al Rebbe is saying over here, for them, fast another 4 times 84. Ad achar chatzos hayom belvad, but only till after midday. The Mechshav Gamkein Tainis Yerushalmi, the Talmud Yerushalmi, this is considered to be a fast. Ubeis chatzos hayom nachshavim lo yom echa, 2 half days can be considered as 1 full day le'inyan zeh for this purpose. V'chein l'shar avonis ki yotze b'hana. The same thing is also with similar avedas of this type. Asher kol lev yedei amaras nafshei, every heart knows the bitterness of his soul. V'chafetz b'hitzadka, and desires that the soul should become a tzaddik, or desires the righteousness of his neshama. So the Alter Rebbe says, there are certain avedas, what the Alter Rebbe is implying over here, the Alter Rebbe says it more expressly later on in Perek Zayin of Iggeres HaTeshuvah. There are certain avedas that even though they're not capital offenses, but the Gemara says very, very makes very severe statements about them. So for example, anger. So anger, it's not a capital punishment. But nevertheless, the Gemara tells us, Chazal tell us, that kol hakoyis, ki'ilu eved aved zara, that someone who gets angry, it's as if they worship aved zara. So it's a very severe avera. Lashon hara. Lashon hara, even though it's not a capital offense, but we know the Gemara it's brought down that it's the equivalent of aved zara, gili arayis, and shvichas damim. Later on, the Alter Rebbe brings down that Chazal talk very, very, very negatively about halamas ayin min tzedakah, seeing a poor person and ignoring the poor person instead of giving tzedakah. Gaiva is another avera which is brought down, is also similar to Aveda Zara. So all these Avedas, which are extremely severe Avedas, and all Avedas that are capital offenses, the Alter Rebbe is saying, fast 1 time the regimen, whatever that number is. Whatever the number is brought down in the Sifrei Kabbalah, Sifrei Musar, do it 1 time. But don't do it all at once. Divide it up over, do it in the winter first of all, short days, and divide it up over many years. That's number 1. And then for the remaining, because remember we said you should do it really 3 times, you're doing it only once. For the remaining twice, that you should do 2 half days. And this, so it ends up, for example, so for Eitzah Zer Levatala, you would fast 84 times, and then you'd have to fast, my math isn't the best, 168 times 2 is 300 and... 336, right? So another 336 half fasts. Half fast. And half fast is not, for most people, half fast is not the end of the world. Most people to fast till midday, especially again if you do it during the winter, it's not the end of the world. And this way you get rid of all of these major avedas. Achin, however, misbar hatzoyim so eat from al reish nun beis ukahai gavnan. Let's say a person was over on the Isser of Eitzah Zer Levatala more than 3 times. Let's say he did it 10 times, the Isser. So what about all the other times? So yeah, in a Harami, we said the Hachra is that we should do it only 3 times. But what? There is an opinion that says that you have to fast 84 times for every time you did the Aveira. Shehoy Yitzarach Lasan is that you would have to fast Lachush Ladas HaMachmirim. If you want to be Choishesh to the opinion of those who are machmir lis'anis misbar hatzoymis, and they say that you should fast the month of fast shal kol chet v'chet for every single avera kifi misbar hapamim shachata, according to the amount of times that you sinned, keniskar li'il as mentioned earlier. Yifta kulan b'tzdaka, all of those, that's where tzedakah comes into play. You should be paid all those fast days with tzedakah. Again, erech chai g'deli pulnish va'ad kol yoyim, you have to give 18 of these Polish coins, which we spoke last week about what their value is for every single day of the fast. V'chein shar kol tainish etzarech l'sanis, and the same things, all the other fasts that you have to fast. Al avedas she'ein bahen misa, for avedas that do not have that are not a capital offense. V'afilu al mitzvah bittul mitzvah deraisa, even for a bittul of a mitzvah deraisa udrabanan. The Talmud Torah connected kulam and bittul Torah, which Talmud Torah we know is of paramount importance. It's of equal weight to all other mitzvahs combined. Kfi misbar haf befurash B'tikuni HaTeshuvah Marizal, according to the numbers given by the Rizal for every single Avera, how many fasts to fast. V'rubam niskarim, most of them are also mentioned. B'mishnas Chasidim, b'mesachtes HaTeshuvah. Hakoil kashar l'koil, all of that, yifta b'tznaka, you should give tzedakah. Keniskar le'il, as mentioned early, if you can't, if you're not able to fast because your body is not capable of doing so. So what do we have over here again? We have two categories. There's the Averis Chamuris. Averis Chamuris includes again capital Averis, as well as those few Averis about which Chazal say terrible things about them. For those Averis, so in there itself, you have three categories. One time, let's say the amount of fasts for an Aveda, we'll throw out a number, is 100, okay? 100 fast, but that you have to again break it up over the winters. And then you have another really 200 fasts to make up if you want to do 3 times. So those 200 you break up into half, and you do 400 half fasts. So you do, let's say there's an Aveda. Let's back up a little. Let's say there's an Avera, and you're supposed to fast for it 100 fasts, and you did that Avera 10 times. So what do you do? So if it's an Avera, from the Averas Chamuris, so you fast 100 fasts, you fast 400 half days, so that makes that, altogether that'll give you 300 fasts. But now there's the other 700 fasts, which there is an opinion that you're supposed to fast those 700 also. That all, you give tzedakah 700 times, chai g'deli punlish. You give 700 days worth of food tzedakah. That takes care of that Avera. That is for Averis HaChamuris. All other Averis, let's say you missed a davening, you forgot to put up a mezuzah in your house, even eating treif. Eating treif is not a Isser Kares, it's not a Mitzvah B'dei Shemayim. All these other Averis, Alter Rebbe is saying don't fast for them at all. For these, you give tzedakah the amount of, for every Avera, every time you did it, give tzedakah the amount that the Arizal specified for that particular Avera. Clear the Chalukah? Okay, some of you who might be listening into the shir might be thinking to themselves, I am going to go bankrupt. Basically, the amount of tzedakah, I may as well fast. I'm not going to have any money for food anyways. Well, how am I supposed to give all this money to tzedakah? The Rebbe says, even if this adds up, it's a lot of money, don't worry. I mean, you should worry that you're going to lose money. But we know there's a rule that we're not supposed to give more than a fifth of our belongings away, more than a fifth of our property and that of our assets away to tzedakah. The Rebbe says, don't worry about that. Why? Because this is not called hamevazvez. Again, it says hamevazvez al yevazvez yisr mechemish, which means someone who's the word bizbuz can even mean wasting. It could mean that, but it means someone who is like spending without cheshbon is called bizbuz. Someone who is just giving without any cheshbonis, even such a person shouldn't give more than 20% of what they have. But the Rebbe says this is not called bizbuz. This is not called stams, spending without a cheshbon. Because you're doing it for a purpose. You're doing it in order to redeem your soul and to save yourself from these different fasts and different other afflictions which are recommended in the Sfarim of Kabbalah. And therefore, this is a need that you have. It's a spiritual need that you have to fix your neshama. Why is this need any less importance than your need for your physical needs, your other needs? Just like when you go to a store to buy food, you don't say to yourself, I'm only allowed to spend 20%, I'm only allowed to spend a fifth. Whatever you need, you're allowed to spend on yourself. This is a need. It's not midin tzedakah. In other words, when you're talking about, I'm giving tzedakah. Why? Because there's a mitzvah tzedakah. There we say, don't give more than 20%. But over here we're talking about you're giving it for a distinct purpose. You have a need. You have a need, again, to rectify your neshama. This is not it's not any less important than all your other needs. And because the number of fasts which are mentioned in the Tikkunei Teshuvah are very much, as we've already experienced, for getting angry, what was 151 fasts, and for davening is 70 fasts. Therefore, all those who are charedim, who tremble at the word of Hashem, in other words, people who are zohir and mitzvahs, laharbais me'oid b'tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe says, therefore, today is the minute to give a lot of tzedakah, and not to worry about 20%. Why? Because of the weakness of the generation, that today people don't have the ability to afflict themselves and to fast that much. As explained elsewhere in the Iggeres HaKodesh, al pasuk Chazdei Hashem ki lo yisamnu. What does Alter Rebbe explain over there? So Mir Hashem, we will get there one day to Iggeres HaKodesh Siman Yud. But I don't want to keep you in suspense until then, so I'll give you briefly what Alter Rebbe says over there. Alter Rebbe says that there's a pasuk in Eicha, Chazdei Hashem ki lo yisamnu, ki lo yichalu rachamav, which translates as Chazdei Hashem, the kindnesses of Hashem ki lo yisamnu, they have not ended. Ki lo yichalu rachamav, and Hashem's mercies have not concluded, have not been used up. So the Alter Rebbe asks a question over there, that it shouldn't have said Chazdei Hashem ki lo yisamnu, but should have said Chazdei Hashem ki lo yisamu. Just like ki lo yichalu rachamav, it should have said Chazdei Hashem ki lo yisamu. Samu means that the chasadim of Hashem never ended. What is samnu? Nu is talking about us. The chasadim of Hashem have not ended. It should have been Chazdei Hashem ki lo yisamnu. And Taka, if you look on the Mefarshim and the pasuk, they say samnu is k'moi tamu. But what do you mean k'moi tamu? But the pasuk doesn't say tamu. The pasuk says samnu. So Alter Rebbe explains over there that in terms of the chesed of Hashem, there are two different types of chesed of Hashem. So one example is Torah. In general, we know Torah is chesed. Torah is, if chesed is about closeness and revelation, Torah is the ultimate revelation from Hashem, the ultimate chesed. Torah is nimshal alamayim. We know Torah is compared to water. Water is a metaphor for chesed. But at the same time, we find different references to Torah and its connection to Gvura. So for example, one of them is, we talk about how the Torah, we heard it mepi hagvura. Anoichi v'layeh lecha mepi hagvura shamanu. We heard the Torah. Now, why would we describe the Torah coming mepi hagvura? Why, as Hashem is described with midas hagvura? There's also a pasuk in Zeh Sabracha where we say miyiminoi, that Hashem gave us from His right hand. Which, by the way, right hand right away tells you that we're talking about chesed. But what does the pasuk continues? Eish das lamai. What did we receive from Hashem's right hand? The Torah, the das, which is the law, which is eish, which is fire. Fire is gvura. So it's Torah chesed, it's Torah gvura, and the Alter Rebbe explains, of course Torah is chesed. But at the same time, the Torah, as it reaches us down over here, it has many different limitations. And that gvura is the koyach of tzimtzum, of contraction, of limiting. And that's why almost all the mitzvahs that we have limits. They're defined. So esrog has to be this big, and a lulav has to be this big, and a sukkah. And a carbon has to be this many years old and not this many years old. A shofar has to be how big it is. Every mitzvah has very, listen, if mitzvahs didn't have limitations, then we wouldn't have a Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch is, the whole thing about Shulchan Aruch is telling us the limits are inherent in every mitzvah. And that tells us that even though Torah comes from Hashem's chesed, but it's funneled, it comes to us by way of Gevurah. So the energy of Hashem that we receive through mitzvahs and through the Torah mitzvahs is taki, it's the chesed of Hashem, but it's the chesed of Hashem which comes down into this world behagbala. And then there's Chazdei Hashem. Chazdei Hashem, the chesed which only Hashem has. Because the type of chesed which is a limited chesed, we also have that. That's not unique to Hashem. But what is the chesed that's unique to Hashem? That is the chesed which is bli gvul mamish, an unlimited chesed. And the Alter Rebbe says that when a person is a tzaddik, and a person does all the Torah and all the mitzvahs, then they don't need chastei Hashem. Then it's enough for them that they follow all the mitzvahs, which again, all the mitzvahs are limited by nature, and thereby they draw down into this world this chesed Hashem, which comes down by way of gevura. But what if a person messes up? What if a person does Iggeres? Then to fix and to correct what you have done wrong over here, it's not enough to do the mitzvahs and to be mamshech in a way of hakbal, in a way of limitation. And it's not enough to be mamshech, to bring down here into this world the light which is limited. If you want to fix everything that you messed up, you need a light which is bligvul. You need a light which is going to come down and completely wash off and fill up everything that you made empty and everything that you messed up. You need chastei Hashem. And that's why the Navi, Yirmiyah, it's a pasuk in Eicha, and it's talking about the Galus. Times the Beis HaMikdash, people were on a much higher level than us. But as we enter Galus and Yirmiyahu sees our lower spiritual state, he says, chastei Hashem. We need the chastei Hashem. Why? Kilei samnu, because we're not complete. Because we've done Iggeres. Because we've done Iggeres, the regular chasadim of Hashem aren't enough. The regular chasadim, which we're mamshech, which we draw down to this world through the normal limud haTorah and kiyum mitzvahs, is not enough. We need to have chastei Hashem. We need to have the unlimited chesed to fix up all that we've messed up. And how do we draw down chastei Hashem? When we emulate that somewhat, and when we do chesed also in an unlimited way. Now we can't do chesed in an unlimited way like Hashem can do chesed. But at the same time, when we give more than our limitations allow us to, when we go that extra step, that's how we fix up our Iggeres. And that's what the Rebbe is telling us over here also. That today we give a lot of tzedakah. We're not worried about the halachic boundaries of 10% and 20%, because everyone does Iggeres today. So the minig is, we give a lot of tzedakah. We're mefazer, we spread out tzedakah as much as possible, realizing that this is pashut, is what brings a tikkun to our neshama. I'm going to point out that although with this we finished the Perek, but to point out that although the Alter Rebbe, it would seem that by the time we finished with the Perek, the Alter Rebbe is saying, yeah, we don't fast definitely the amount of times that it says in the Sfarim, and we don't fast for all the Iggeres. However, for a certain specific stringent Iggeres, including the Alter Rebbe mentioned Zera Levatala, for those Iggeres we should fast at least once. But it's apparent that even in that area there's been a change since the generation of the Alter Rebbe. I'm unaware of any time, and in all the letters of the Rebbe, and all the advice that the Rebbe has given to anyone, and people definitely wrote to the Rebbe many times about the various Iggeres they have done, I'm unaware of anyone to whom the Rebbe told them to fast. In fact, the Rebbe very often discouraged this kind of behavior, even though if you remember last week we said the Rebbe himself did it, but okay, that's, if a Rebbe is kinkashenish, you don't ask questions on a Rebbe. And it's apparent that as we continue on throughout the generations, and as we continue the Yeridas Iggeres, which we spoke about last week, that today, even the minimal amount of fasting, which the Alter Rebbe, which again, although the Alter Rebbe does discourage a lot of fasting, and says even the fasting you do, it should be in the winter and the short days, and do it at intervals to space them out. But today, even that we don't do. Today, it's all tzedakah. I'm talking by the Rebbe, there was nothing more important than tzedakah. How many times the Rebbe spoke about tzedakah? And we know, everyone knows, dollars. The Rebbe gave out dollars, which there is no precedent for that. You think there always have been Gedolei Yisrael who would give out money, give out coins, give out $1. But by the other Gedolei Yisrael, it was always as a skula. The Gemara says in Baba Basra that called Hanaitel Pruta Me'iyev Mizbarach. There's a skula to have a pruta, to have a coin from a tzaddik. So tzaddikim, there was a thing that give to their followers, that give them a coin. or a bill, whatever it may be. But by the Rebbe, the express purpose of Sunday, standing and giving out dollars, and it wasn't only Sunday, it was many other occasions. And every time, by the way, the Rebbe would walk into davening and out of davening, the Rebbe would be handing out coins to the children to give to tzedakah. It was tzedakah. The Rebbe's emphasis on tzedakah was incredible, because that is our avodah today. Our avodah today is tzedakah, not fasting. And even the minimum amount of fast, the Rebbe says we should not be doing. Rather, today, our avodah is tzedakah, and we have to know that for us, this is what our avodah is. Our avodah is giving tzedakah. And giving a lot of tzedakah. More than the limitations that we think that we have to try to give more. I think I might have mentioned this in the past, that there was once a wealthy person who came to the Rebbe and asked the Rebbe how much tzedakah he should give. And the Rebbe told him that you have to give until it hurts. In other words, we have to give tzedakah until we feel the pinch. And not just we're giving tzedakah when we have excess money, but tzedakah, which is that it hurts. That means that I'm giving tzedakah, and that means there's something I'm not going to have. Something I want, and I'm not going to have that because I'm giving tzedakah. That's the blikvul of tzedakah. And not thinking about the cheshbon, meiser, and chaimesh, but giving more and more and more tzedakah. In addition to that, we also should point out that there's this idea, which also mentioned, and that is, and the Rebbe spoke about this also, learning Iggeres HaTeshuvah, learning about the fast, it's as if we fasted. Learning about the karbanos, it's as if we brought karbanos. Learning about tzedakah, it's as if we gave tzedakah. Not that that patters us, not that that exempts us from tomorrow from giving tzedakah, but we have to realize also the tremendous zechus there is. And for someone who has Iggeres and wants to do tshuva, in addition to giving tzedakah, pashat, sit and learn Iggeres HaTeshuvah again and again and again and again. Because when you learn about something, it's as if you've done it. That's a rule in Torah, and that's another way to take care of it. And the Rebbe does also point out that he's talking here about giving a lot of tzedakah. And some people over here might be also listening into the shir and saying, "Okay, I can't. You're telling me 20%? I can't give 10%, and I have a heter from my Rav not to give 10% because I'm a poor person and I pay tuition. I can't." So you have to know, anyone who this applies to, which unfortunately probably is a lot of people this applies to, that if you can't give it tzedakah, that's the circumstance that Hashem put you in, and that means you don't have to give a lot of tzedakah. That means you could be, in other words, just like when there is no carbon, when there is no carbon, there's fasting. When there is no fasting, there's tzedakah. And when there is no tzedakah, you learn Iggeres HaTeshuvah. We have to realize Hashem never puts us in a situation in which He wants of us something which we can't do. And if we can't do it, that means there's something else we can do instead of it. And not only there's something else we can do instead of it, but that means that other thing that we're doing instead of it is our job, and tzedakah isn't our job. And this is a very important idea here. We keep on saying, you can't do this, you can't do this, do that. All these things are because our neshamas are different. Our neshamas are not supposed to be bringing karbanos. Our neshamas are not supposed to be fasting. Our neshamas are meant to give tzedakah. And if I can't give tzedakah, then I learn Iggeres HaTeshuvah. Or I go and I do Bikur Cholim. And that's my tzedakah. It's very important being able to identify what your koiches are, what Hashem wants of you. The Frierdiker Rebbe once said a story that there was once a wealthy businessman who was traveling, and he had with him a coachman, a balagala. This coachman was also a yid, but a poor yid. Rich yid didn't become coachman. And they stopped off in a town for Shabbos, and this was on their journey. And the wealthy businessman checked himself into the wall of Astoria in the town. Okay, there probably wasn't a wall of Astoria over there, but he found the best lodgings available for what he could buy and paid a nice penny for it. And then you had the poor coachman. He found somewhere a cheap room, somewhere to be able to rent. And they arrived a few hours before Shabbos. So each one of them went into the room and they got ready for Shabbos, and they both headed off to shul. But they didn't mamish go together because they're coming from different directions. The wealthy person on his way to shul, he sees there's a wagon that's stuck in mud. So there's a mitzvah, azev tazev imay. It's a mitzvah that when you see, right? Kisira chameir senacha revetz tachas masoi. When you see your friend's donkey that's it's lying on the side of the road and they can't get up, you have to help. Okay, so this is a mitzvah that can apply over here also. The mitzvah is adapted to every single situation. Today, it's if you see a car on the side with the hood up and there's a yid over there, there's a mitzvah to stop and aziv tazivime to help him if you can. So this wealthy person goes and he's wearing his Shabbos clothing already and running to shul, but he's all gung-ho, he's going to do this mitzvah, all excited, and he starts pushing and he starts pulling, but he knows absolutely nothing about how to get a wagon out of the mud. It takes expertise, it takes a certain mumchashaft, it takes a certain knowledge. He didn't manage to do anything other than, he had two accomplishments. He got the wagon a little more stuck in the mud, and he got himself filled, all his Shabbos clothes full with mud also. And then he's running off the shul, busy wiping off mud from his suit. He accomplished nothing. Meanwhile, the balagala, the coachman, already arrived in shul, and he went to shul early to say some tehillim, and he sees there are a bunch of poor people over there. No, this is mitzvah v'achnasas archem. So he goes over to them. Would you like to come and be my guest for the Shabbos meal in the room where I'm staying? Sure. After the meal, he takes them back to his room. He has 3 pieces of challah altogether, which he shares with the 10 guests. And obviously everyone left almost as hungry as they arrived. But this person did the mitzvah of aziv tazevimai, and this person did the mitzvah of achnasas archem. And after 120 years, they both went up to heaven. And they were both dispatched back down. And they said, you guys, you are wandering neshamas hatoyis. The Baal Agala was supposed to do the mitzvah of aziv tazevimai. The rich person was supposed to do the mitzvah of achnasas archem. You mixed up your mitzvahs. You're heading back down to be misakin and to do the mitzvah that you were sent to. And the same thing is also, we have to understand, if you're someone who, you're a teacher in yeshiva, and last I heard, the salaries in yeshiva don't make people millionaires, and you have a bunch of children. And so when the Rebbe is saying, Laharbis mo'id b'tzedakah, he's not talking to you. You have to learn Iggeres HaTeshuvah. And that's what your neshama needs. Yeah, you'll give some tzedakah also. And if you're a person who can give tzedakah, then you have to give, and you have to give and give and give until it hurts. But upon him, this is very important you say to understand that Eibishter puts us all in the circumstances of Shkacha Pratis, where we're supposed to be, and we have to find our avodah, and including in Shuvah. If a person did Aveira, the Shuvah that Hashem wants of you does not come with an expectation that you'll do something which you are incapable of doing due to your life circumstances. But those who can should give, and they should give more than choimish. They should give as much as they can to tzedakah. And again, even if it hurts, and we know that we have the Magi Dvarav Yaakov Hukav Mishpatav Yisrael, that what we do, Hashem does, when we do a mitzvah. So when we give tzedakah more than we can, the Eibishter also reciprocates in that way also. And the Eibishter doesn't only give us 20% of what he can, but he gives us more than that. And considering that Hashem is bli gvul, so 20% of bli gvul, 20% of infinity, I said earlier I'm not very good at math, but even I know that 20% of infinity is infinity. And especially if you're talking about more than 20%. There's a sikha that everyone said, that you know, at the end of the Mishnayos, it says that also the Kadosh Baruch Hu lahanchil l'chol tzadik v'tzadik shay elamis, that eventually when Mashiach comes in Elam Haba, the Eibishter is going to give every single tzaddik 310 worlds. Now, if every tzaddik has 310 worlds, how are they all going to talk to each other? I think today we know they'll have Zoom conferences. The tzaddikim from each one from their world. So the Rebbe said in the Sikha, 1 second, 310 worlds, that sounds amazing. But we know that when it comes to halachas of tzedakah, yeah, the person who gives tzedakah has to give according to their ability, and Hashem can give more than that. The Eibishter, Hashem has to give bli gvul taki, has to give bli gvul elamis to every tzaddik and to every yid, because every yid is a tzaddik. And the Rebbe stopped and smiled, and the Rebbe said, and now you're going to say, what am I going to do with bli gvul elamis? What am I going to do with infinite amount of worlds? What do I need it for? So the Rebbe said, Petach, fool. First you take, and then you'll figure out what you're going to do with them. Akapanim, Bashkacha Pratis. So, this topic of Hamevazuz Alivazuz Yisem Rechoimish is connected to the Parashat HaShavua. Why is that? In the end of this week's parsha of B'chokaisai, so we have the halachas of erech and vacharam. The halachas of a person says, erech, I'm going to give to hektish a certain amount, how much a certain person is worth, or if a person wants to be machrim, wants to make parts of his properties into hektish. And if you look in the Rambam, in Sefer Haflah, and this is the last halachas in the Rambam in Haflah is Hilchas Erech and Vacharam, which is connected to this week's parsha. And I'd like to read for you the last halacha of Hilchas Erech and Vacharam. The Rambam says like this: Lo olam lo yakdish adam v'lo yachrim kol nechasav. A person shouldn't be makdish, shouldn't give to hektish, or make a chedem. Chedem is also hektish, or for the kehanim. All of his belongings. V'ho isakim. Someone who decides that he's being makdish all of his belongings, Ever al das hakosuf, is violating that which the pasuk says. Sharei oimer, because the pasuk says mikol asher lo, that a person should give from what he has. V'lo kol asher lo, doesn't say he should give what he has, but from what he has. K'mei shebeiru chacham, as the chachamim explained. Ve'ein zu chassidus, this is not considered piousness. It's not considered piety. Amidas chassidus, to give away everything. Ela shtus. This way you're destroying all your possessions, and now you're going to go need to get tzedakah. And a person who does this, we have no rachmanis on such a person. In other words, if a person gives all his money to hektish, there's no reason to have rachmanis on him and start giving him tzedakah. Regarding such a person, the chachamim say, chasid sheita miklal mevali olam, that someone who is a stupid chasid, in other words, he thinks he's being a chasid, but he's being foolish. So these are for the people who destroy the world. Ella, rather, call hamafazer mamoini b'mitzvahs, whoever wants to spend lavishly on mitzvahs, al yifazer yeser machimish, should not spend lavishly more than 20%. So that's mamish what on the topic of what we're talking about here in the Perek. So the Rambam here is very clear. That Ella call him mefazer mamoini b'mitzvahs. Whoever gives away is spending on mitzvahs should not spend more than 20%. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe Taka explains it's not for the mitzvah; you're doing it because you have a need. But the Rambam doesn't seem to make any exceptions to this rule of not spending more than 20%. However, interestingly, elsewhere the Rambam says in his Pirush HaMishnayos on the first Mishnah of Masechtas Peah, the famous Mishnah of Elo Dvarim She'ein Lahem Shir. And one of the things, the She'ein Lahem Shir, one of the things that we say have no limit is Gmilas Chasadim. So how do we understand that? So the Rambam says over here, Uma she'amar bikan Gmilas Chasadim ein la shir, that which we say, that there is no limitation to how much a person should give away to tzedakah. Reitz Leimar Lazir Adam Begufay. That's talking about Gemilas Chasadim Begufay. It's talking about Halvayas Hameis, Bikra Chelam, Hachnasa Sarchim, all these things that don't involve money. However, Sheyazer Eisei B'mamoina Yesh Leishir. But if a person, how much money a person should give? Gemilas Chasadim B'mamoina, that has a share. V'hu Chamishis Mamoina, that is a fifth of one's money. V'lo Yischayev Laseis Yeser Mechamishis Mamoina, a person is not obligated to give more than a fifth of what he has. Levad imas akein b'midas chasidus, unless he's doing it as a midas chasidus. So the Rambam says very clearly that al yifazer yeser mechemish, not to give more than 20%, and he doesn't make any exceptions for midas chasidus. The contrary, he says over there, if you want to give more, you're a chasid sheita. And here the Rambam says that when it comes to gmilas chasadim b'mamoinai, so over there, you have to give, then over there the limit is 20%, unless midas chasidus, you can give more. So the Mefarshim Taka talk about this seeming contradiction in the words of the Rambam. And one of the answers that's given is that if a poor person approaches you, there's a need in front of you, then it's midas chasidus to give even more than 20%. You know, to give him deimach soire, give the person whatever he needs, regardless of the amount it is. So that's what the Rambam is talking about over here in Masechtas Peah, here where he says you're only mechuyev to give up to 20%. But more than that is Midas Chasidus. That's when a poor person is stretching out his hand for you. And over here in the Rambam, when he says about not giving more, there is talking about to put money in a pushka. There is no need in front of you. It's time to give money to tzedakah when you don't have a pressing need in front of you, then you can't give more than 20%. That's an answer that's brought down in Mefarshim. But the Rebbe has an interesting view of this whole thing. The Rebbe says, if you notice in the Rambam over here, which we learned, the Rambam didn't mention tzedakah specifically. Actually, it's Hilchas Eirichin V'Charamin. What is Eirichin V'Charamin? It's not tzedakah, but it's a person giving away to Hektish. What is the reason why a person should give to Hektish? So the Rambam actually explains it in Halacha earlier, in Halacha Yud Beis. He says, over there, it is worthy for a person to do these things, in other words, to be makdish things, to do erechin, to do charamim, kidei lakuf yitzrei, in order to subjugate the Yetzer Hara, v'lo yiyachilai, and not to be stingy. So when a person is coming to do tikkun hamidos, which is what the Rambam is talking about over here, you're not supposed to give more than 20%. Person feels I'm a stingy person. I'm self-obsessed. I think always about myself. I go to work and I'm thinking about the couch that I'm going to get and the car that I'm going to get. So therefore, Torah says, you know what? If you want to help yourself in that area, you want to improve your midas in that area, be makdish some of your nechasim. Be makdish some of the stuff that you have. And this is, but for tikkun hamidas, for this purpose, here the absolute limit is 20%. And there is no midas chasidus even to do more than that. Here, however, in Masechtas Peah, we're talking about Gemilas Chasadim. It's not about tikkun hamidas. There's another person that needs to be helped. Over there, when it's to help another person, there, midas chasidus taka is to give more than 20%. How much more so when we're talking about over here in Tanya in our Perek, when we're talking about over here about not only it's not about tikkun hamidas, and we're also not talking about helping someone else. We're talking about pikuach nefesh. We're talking about a person that pashut, their relationship with Hashem is not the way that it was, and you need to fix it. So over here, for sure, there is no limit of 20%, and a person can and is able to give much more than that, abi, to fix the blemishes and the problems that were within a neshama, be made because of a person's avedus. With that, we finish Perek Gimel. Rabbi Moshe, should we start Perek Dalet? It's up to you. You say yeah, you say no. What sagst du? Okay. Up to this point, we finished Perek Gimel, and this, by the way, is more or less the nigla. Anyone who's a little familiar with Tanya knows the first three prakim in Iggeres HaTeshuvah are like the nigla part of it, the examination of it. It's not necessarily from a halachic perspective, although partially halacha. What is teshuvah, and what is kapara, and what is the gather of fasting, and how much do you have to fast? And from Perek Dalet on, we're going to begin the Kabbalah of teshuvah. What is the teshuvah according to Pnimis Inyanim? And we'll start on Mitzvah Hashem next week. Good Shabbos, everyone.